Hey guys, welcome to episode 16 of the My Team Career Mode series here on F1 2020. We have the Singapore Grand Prix today in, well, completely unknown mixed conditions. The race is, on paper, dry, wet, dry, but it might be raining at the beginning. If not, very soon after the beginning of the race, and when it will dry up, we've no idea, and we haven't entirely been able to rely on the weather forecast throughout the course of this season either, so Christ knows what's going to happen here. A wet P1, a wet P2, a dry P3, a dry quali over in the under the spotlights, of course, not overnight, so to speak, but in the evening. And I've no idea what's going to happen at Singapore. I never tend to do well here. Better than Monaco, but still don't tend to do that well. We are putting older parts in the car, of course, for practice, and if we don't qualify very well at all, I will take the penalty, start the back of the grid, and get a number of new parts for later in the season. This is race 16 of 22, so there is still a number more of races to go after this one. Another 6. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Another 6 Grand Prix after this one. I can show you what they are, in fact. Grand Prix after this one. We've Singapore now, then Russia, Japan, USA, Mexico, Brazil, and United Arab Emirates. Thank you very much, Kieran, for the 20 months subscribed to the Twitch channel. Appreciate that very much indeed. So I'm going to jump into practice. Don't know how it's going to go, but I hope to have a decent Grand Prix. We've been in some decent form of late, or perhaps the better way to say it is we've been outperforming the car of late. On paper, we are the second worst side. Thank you, Archie, for the 5 months. We're in the second worst side on paper, so we should be finishing 19th and 20th every race. In the past few, we've gone 16th, 8th, 16th, 14th, could have finished 12th, 13th in Belgium, could have finished higher there, and 14th in Italy, and if it weren't for penalties, could have finished 11th. So we are outperforming the car at present. Nick De Vries has gone 17, 16, 15, 16, which is certainly better than Juan Manuel Correa throughout the entirety of his time. He finished 16th once, and already Nick De Vries has either matched or bettered that on 3 occasions. So we definitely made the right decision in upgrading our teammate when we did. We'll have to wait and see if we keep Nick De Vries for next season. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do second driver-wise, but let's jump in and see what we can do with the Singapore Grand Prix and hope that something positive happens. You never know what we can do with strategy, with the weather, Tozzy with the 14 months, thank you, my man, or maybe the odd safety car as well, considering we had the first one of the series in the last episode. But I'm going to jump in. Drop the video a like if you enjoy. Make sure you subscribe that way. If you enjoy, subscribe if you haven't already, and follow the link in the description to my Twitter and my Twitch, where you can follow me and watch these in full. But for now, going to jump straight into practice, divert my attention to the stream, and hopefully have a good race weekend. Right, that's where we'll end practice 1 then. Unfortunately, only 290 of 550 resource points, but the main reason for that is that these worn parts that we've been running are now just so worn that they're genuinely just not competitive anymore. So we are going to have to start running some of the less used parts, and at some point we're gonna start taking penalties now towards the end of the season. But the car does feel good, and hopefully with fresh engine parts or fresher engine parts, we should be relatively competitive, being there or thereabouts in the lower midfield, if you know what I mean. So for a kind of 14th to 16th finish again. Definitely hoping things clear up before qualifying. I hate wet races. Competition has been good. Very, very good indeed.
You left a lot of paint on the walls today. Were you struggling?
I don't remember hitting the wall, other than the obvious one on the track acclimatization. We bit the front wing off. So, I have no idea what's going to happen in qualifying. We could qualify as high as 12th. We could be last. We'll wait and see. And in Q1, with a run that was 8/10 quicker, we're 18th. We went 8/10 quicker at the end of the session and didn't improve our position. That's how much track evolution came into effect at the end of that first qualifying session. No, P12. Why did it say P18? It said P18, didn't it? Nick de Vries didn't leave the garage. What? Did he get disqualified for something? Oh, his lap got invalidated. So the lap that he put in was 3/100ths slower than our first lap, but it got invalidated for corner cutting, meaning that he didn't set a timed lap. So 22nd and last for Nick de Vries. It said P18. Maybe it said P18 and then switched to 12. But P12, we're through to Q2. So I will not be taking grid penalties here and changing my engine parts. We will wait for another Grand Prix for that. Right, where does that put us? P14. P14. Very, very happy to be starting P14, to be fair. Very happy to be starting P14. That could be very, very good for us. Because I expect to be awful in the wet. I expect to be awful in the wet. 137.7, and I was a full 2.5 tenths off Carlos in 13th. So realistically, 14th was the highest we were going to get. Realistically, 14th was the highest we were going to get. So pretty happy with that performance, to be honest. Pretty happy indeed. And a car that should be 19th and 20th to qualify P14 is very pleasing indeed. Hopefully, in the race, we can at least hold position with the mixed conditions. But I've no idea how it's going to go down. But we do edge Esteban Ocon in the rivalry, at least to start off with, although he is still ahead of me overall. And driver and team acclaim are going up. Unfortunately for Nick, his lap got disqualified, or his lap got deleted. And he didn't go out again, inexplicably, in Q1. So he could have made it through, perhaps. Never mind. Into the race we go, with mixed conditions, with the promise of maybe a pretty tasty race. Yeah, the rain does usually come earlier than expected, you're right. So I'll probably start on a set of softs. A fresh set of softs. And just run as long as possible and hope that the rain arrives. Which it probably will do. Magnussen starting on some mediums. Magnussen going for mediums. Everyone else on the softs. I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to risk it. Knowing that in previous years, getting risky with strategy here at Singapore hasn't worked for me. Hasn't worked for me. So I'm going to go conservative. We'll go to lap 11. And then switch to mediums. By which point the rain will be here. And then we won't need to do that shorter stint on softs. But yes, someone has taken a penalty. And we are starting P13, not P14. Who would that be? Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz starts 20th. Lando Norris down in 21st. He must have taken a penalty too, but I think he qualified behind me anyway. So we've jumped ahead of Carlos Sainz, who was the one that we were 2.5 tenths behind in Q2. So we'll start P13. We'll just run the recommended strategy to start with. I don't want to get too risky. And then from there, we'll see what happens with the rain. But I'm not going to go medium to start because I want to be as quick as possible at the start. The rain might come after like 6 laps. And starting on a medium would be pointless in that case. Let's go for the Singapore Grand Prix. Magnussen and Bottas, the only drivers to be running medium tyres. Hang it around the outside at turn 1. The inside line there. Hang it around the outside here and have the inside line moving forward. We're up into P12. We're ahead of Magnussen on those mediums who didn't start that well. Might not have had the grip initially on the harder compound. I didn't even look at fuel, to be honest. Oh my god. Where is... Jesus. Okay, so we don't have straight line speed. Note to self. Oh, took Magnussen back quite nicely there. Note to self. Use use ERS on straights.
Right, we're looking good so far.
We're up to P11 now, although I do have a rather hasty-looking Daniel Ricciardo alongside me. All of our time is made up in the corners, it seems. We don't really need to worry that much about the fuel at the minute, because when the rain comes, we'll be running in lean anyway. But having a higher aero setup will actually, hopefully, suit us in the rain. We wouldn't have started this well. We absolutely would not have started this well if we'd have started on the mediums, which was the call from some in the comment section. If it were a fully dry race, then I definitely would have considered starting on the mediums. But as it's not, and the first stint is probably going to be interrupted by rain, then it definitely wasn't worth throwing on a set of mediums at the beginning. It would just be lost time. Wouldn't actually be gaining anything by starting on the mediums. I have to be careful here because Gasly's so close behind Kvyat that if I go for a move on him, I'm more than likely going to run into the back of his teammate instead. Always locked up there though, Pierre Gasly. Never mind, I've gone straight to the back of him anyway. Got a little bit overexcited there when, oh, I think he might, did he do that before? I don't know whether he did that before. Oh, big, not lock up, tank slapper from Gasly there. Back and really stepped on him. And if his rear tyres are going to be going that fast, then his teammate's probably going to disappear down the road in front of him, and we're running the risk of getting stuck behind him, but we'll wait and see what happens. As has been the case, I just saw some raindrops. As has been the case in a couple of Grand Prix so far this season, my concern is that because we're not so good in the straights, if we come out of the pits at any point in dry running and don't have DRS, we could get left behind.
These conditions are making the line a bit greasy, but we're still nowhere near the changeover point.
But the rain has started falling already, so the rain is on its way down on just lap 4 of this Singapore Grand Prix. Gasly still tucked right up behind his teammate as we are. Kvyat got all out of shape there. Also, Vai getting out of there. Okay, traction's starting to go a little bit as the tyres wear and the rain falls. Not just for me, but for the AI too. We're going to have to be wary of how we put the power down. Still Daniel and Magnussen sat right behind me, not falling away at all. I have no idea how competitive or uncompetitive the car is going to be in the wet. Just trying to stick with the AlphaTauris for now. Like you say, hopefully they double stack. They might be clever enough not to. They should be clever enough not to. But if it does rain heavily, then either they'll double stack and one of them will lose time, or one of them will be forced into doing another lap, in which case one of them will lose time. So either way in the pit stops, we should jump one of them. Thank you for the follow, Chippy, and Genders as well. Welcome to the channel, guys. Either way, we should hopefully jump one of these AlphaTauris in the pit stops. It just then remains to be seen how fast or slow the car is going to be on those intermediate tyres, and I do fear that we're going to be quite slow. Thank you for the subscription, Kishi Boy. Welcome to the gang, my man. If you'd like a link to the subscriber Discord, then do let me know in chat and I can whisper you one, my mate. These softs are really warm now, though. But I still don't think Magnussen has made the right play by starting on mediums. Like I say, if it were a full dry race, then yeah, good call. Or if the rain was going to come significantly later in the Grand Prix, then yeah, good call. But with the scenario as it is, with the rain falling so early, starting a mediums was just the wrong idea, I think. Having a look at the inside of Pierre there. Didn't quite work. But there's certainly a train here, isn't there? If you look at the mini-map bottom left, there is definitely a train behind these two AlphaTauris. But it's nice to be at the relative front of that train as opposed to being near the back of it. But really starting to have to get quite tentative on the throttle now. At the minute, we still just have enough grip on these worn softs. So I think Inters is not the right call for now. Inters is not the right call for now. But AlphaTauri definitely holding me up, I feel, yeah. Thanks for follow, Omar. Although if I were in free air, would I be that much faster? I don't know. Because, of course, I've got the DRS. The DRS is keeping me in contention as well. I can't discount that.
A new strategy is
Here we go.
on the MFD.
This is going to be it. This is going to be the change.
Okay, copy that.
We're going to pit to Inters this lap. And we will wait and see what happens at AlphaTauri. DRS disabled as well. It's definitely the lap for Inters now. Just got to tiptoe our way around for the remainder of the lap and get back to the pits. Put those green striped intermediate wet tyres on. Now with DRS disabled is where we're probably going to struggle to keep up with those in front. Because yeah, we're quicker through the corners, but I can't keep up with them on the straights. So I am going to have to use my overtake button as tactically as possible. I am really intrigued. You would presume Kvyat will get the preferential treatment pit strategy-wise, and Gasly will have to stay out. Or they'll just double stack because they feel like that's losing, or that's what will lose them the least amount of time. Gasly's staying out. Gasly's having to stay out and do another lap. Gasly's having to stay out and do another lap, meaning that he will lose so much time. So much time. One of the Mercedes, I think, had to stay out as well. Lewis, oh no, they have been able to do it. Pierre has stayed out, as has Kimi, Romain Grosjean and Esteban Ocon, unless they're just farming into the pits behind us. We're currently P16, as we've been overtaken by a couple of other cars that have stayed out. But I do think, yeah, Gasly is going to struggle now. Thanks for the 5th month, Reese, and the 6th month, fuck, as well. Thank you very much, lads. But yeah, definitely happy hour in the pits right now. Teammates in the pits too. Hopefully there's enough time behind him, or behind me, to get him out again. Position is going to change dramatically now. Oh, I had to get held. I had to get held for Kvyat. We very nearly jumped the AlphaTauri in the pit stops.
Okay, you only have to stop once now. One stop left.
Coming out right behind Danny Kvyat is good news for us still, because we can use his, not necessarily DRS off the back of him, but we can use the slipstream. Now I'm in lean. I am running in lean to ensure that I get as minimal wheel spin as possible from my rear tyres. I am going to have to use my overtake button to stay with those in front through the long straights, and I think, I have a horrible feeling that in the wet we are not going to be as competitive as we are in the dry. I do expect us to lose a handful of places in the wet, sorry, to hopefully be able to make those back up later at the end of the Grand Prix. We know the dry tyres will do probably about 10 laps. Or the soft tyres will do probably about 10 laps, 10 to 12 laps in the full dry, and the mediums will do considerably more than that. So, if when the rain dries up there are more than 15 laps to go, or more than 14 laps to go, then when it dries up we will switch to medium tyres. But for the time being, we're going to stick with Danny Kvyat, hopefully. But this is a period of the Grand Prix where we are going to have to concentrate like mad. Concentrate like mad to stay with everyone. Thank you for the follow, Alex, and Jakers as well. Oh, It's going to be a long Grand Prix, boys. A long Grand Prix, but hopefully one that we can get some points from, perhaps. Currently in 10th, having jumped Pierre Gasly, who had to do that extra lap. They probably would have lost less time if they double stacked, to be honest. Probably would have lost less time if they double stacked, but it's the decision that they made. But we are a long way behind Lance Stroll in 8th. Almost a full 7 seconds, so I think 9th is probably the most we could achieve unless something drastic happens or there are retirements. Yellow flags up ahead. I'm not sure what for. Oh, it's a slow-moving racing point. Lance Stroll is out. Lance Stroll is out of the Grand Prix. So that is going to gain us a position. Lance's engine has gone. Unreliability from the Mercedes. And we have P9. That's an extra World Championship point without even having to overtake anyone if we can stay in the position we're in. The fuel is coming back to us as well, which is good news. Which was always the expectation in the rain too. Good news is that Daniel hasn't really attempted anything. Since the beginning of the Grand Prix, really, since we overtook him, Daniel hasn't really been able to be in a position to challenge us for our track position. So it's not like we're just holding him up. We are where we are, on pace. It's probably a more Kvyat holding both of us up than anything. Not that I can really get close to Daniel at the minute. Kvyat that is, not Ricciardo. I want to keep looking in front of me. I don't want to start having to look behind me in my mirrors. So that's just going to lose me time to Kvyat. Alex Albon is a full 16 seconds ahead in the Red Bull. So 8th is going to be the highest we can finish today, unless we get more retirements. But 8th would still equal our season's best finish. Still only on lap 19. We're not even a third of the way through this Grand Prix yet. Jeez Louise, it's going to be a long one. But hopefully it's going to be a long one that's worthwhile. Now the hard, it did say the hard would do upwards of 50 laps. So when the rain stops and we go back to dries, I could consider, depending on how many laps are left, going on to the hard and only doing one more stop. Alternatively, we could stay on the mediums and go medium soft until the end, because to be fair, the hard was much slower a lap, wasn't it? Much slower a lap. So again, as was the case with the mediums and the softs, you'd probably lose more time on the hards than you would, or it would take longer to get to the race on just one hard tyre stint than it would going medium soft and having the extra pit stop. We're actually starting to pull away over Magnussen behind. It's up to 2.1 seconds now. So Magnussen is falling away in 11th. And if that gap continues to grow, then that surely means that we're definitely on for some points today. Well, I say that, we're still not even at half race distance. We've only just gone past the third race distance. We had to switch to wet tyres, or to intermediate tyres, on lap 10. So we've actually been running in the rain much longer than we were running in the dry.
Our gap to the car in front is 1.9 seconds. Check your MFD for a new
okay,
strategy
dry tyre
option.
time.
Understood, copy that.
Pitting this lap for a set of dry tyres. We could try and take the hards to the end. I don't think that's going to work. It's going to be a case of pitting for mediums. We've 32 or 30... No, sorry, that's a mistake. I was looking at it thinking lap 29. We've 35 or 36 laps to go. So it's going to be a case of doing a medium stint and then a soft stint. And that will be the end of the Grand Prix. So dry tyres as of the end of this lap. I could try and stretch the mediums to the end, but I don't know as they do it. I don't know as they do it, but hopefully we can get onto a medium set now, then we could be very fast at the end of the Grand Prix. I hope. I wonder if anyone else will go for a hard and try and run that to the end. I'm very intrigued. Alex Albon in the pits. We're about to close in on him. Here we go then. Pit stop number 2. Take it out of lean, put it back in standard. I'm not going. No, I'm definitely not going hards. The hard tyre is so much slower a lap.
Go, go, go.
So much slower a lap.
On the exit. Go, go, go. Nick is in the pits. Nick in the pits.
So we're going to have to be careful for grip for a little while because it is still slightly damp. We are now chasing Daniel Kvyat. In dry conditions with DRS back for a P8 potential. And we are out of a second of Daniel Ricciardo at the minute, and if I can keep that way, and we could maybe pull away from him and close Magnussen at the same time, but it is going to be difficult. If Daniel gets DRS in this next DRS zone, then I think it's going to be a three-way fight for 8. So AlphaTauri is pretty sharpish on fresh tyres. This is the part of the track where our car excels, and you can see that in the way that the gap is closing. With our extra downforce, we are much quicker through this section. But we are getting there. We are really getting there. P8 is a definite potential in this Grand Prix. I'm curious to know if anyone's gone onto the hard tyre from the dries, from the wet, sorry. I doubt anyone has, but they may have done. Maybe slightly further down, just to try and... Yes, so Kimi Räikkönen will go to the end on those hards. George Russell will go to the end on those hards. And all of the front runners, all but Max Verstappen have gone to the hards. Keep your eye on Max Verstappen. That will be the test of whether the going to the hards and running to the end, or going soft and medium for another extra stop will pay off or not. And Alexander Albon will be a test as well to see if he can get ahead of Perez and Leclerc. This is going to be an interesting end to the Grand Prix. I believe Kvyat will pit again. Oh no, I ballsed up around the best part of the track for us, and that's let Daniel back into piss. It's let Daniel back into range. That one mistake might cost me P8 for this entire Grand Prix. Ah, time to get back on Kvyat's tail and build my ERS up again, and hope that Daniel doesn't catch me too much, which I have a funny feeling he will do.
A few tenths per lap to the car ahead. They're edging away.
Oh, my poor little thumb. My poor little thumb's going to be worn out by the end of this. So the gap to Perez is 19 seconds. We're going to be monitoring that as well as trying to catch Daniel Kvyat. Bear in mind, we will have an extra pit stop over Perez. But if we're gaining by a massive amount now...
Albon has just put up the fastest lap of the race so
and
far.
those tyres are only going to get more and more worn and slower and slower. I don't know if it's the right play or not for them. I don't know. 1.6 seconds the gap. We did have it down as low as 1.4, and you can see just how much quicker they are on the straight than me. When I don't have ERS or DRS. But ourselves and the two Daniels are certainly in a three-way fight for 8th place, basically. Because Magnussen's falling away behind, and I still think that Perez might just be too far out of reach, with the extra pit stop having to be factored in as well. Alexander Albon is flying, though. It's another fastest lap from him. Chasing Daniel Kvyat down for, well, basically since the start of the Grand Prix, isn't it? We've been behind the AlphaTauri since about lap 2. It was Pierre and Daniel Kvyat at the beginning of the Grand Prix, and then from the pit stop in the wet on lap 10, it's been just Kvyat. But it has been since lap 10 that we've been within a second and a half-ish. Certainly within 2.5 seconds at all times of the Russian. Really starting to run the car ragged now, trying to close that gap. If I have a good final sector, if I can have a good final sector, we should be within DRS range. Yes! Back within DRS range of Daniel Kvyat. We did have a good final sector. Let's go! Driving hard here. This has been 35 hard laps so far. Driving at the very edge of my limit and talent throughout, but we've caught Danny Kvyat up. We will have DRS on him until we're past, hopefully, from now on. And I've been saving my overtake button as well. And when he doesn't have any DRS or fuel modes or overtake button, and surely it's only a matter of time before we pass him. And we are really closing up on Perez as well. 13.8 seconds to 7th. A decent enough run. Rich revs, DRS, ERS, and hopefully still 9. Fuck, he's so quick in a straight line. I thought that was it. I really thought that was the moment. It was a purple sector 1, faster than anyone else all race, but it wasn't enough to get us past Danny Kvyat. This is going to be one hell of a difficult overtake to make. If we get this overtake done before the end of the Grand Prix and finish ahead of him, it will be one of the most satisfying overtakes that we've ever had, considering how long we have been behind Danny Kvyat. On pace with him, on pace with Ricciardo behind as well. Just not quite able to get past. I need him to make a mistake, really. I need him to make a mistake.
Kvyat ahead. The gap is less than a second. They're on old mediums. Their tyres are 9 laps old. We think they've got one more stop. The time last lap was a 1:42.7. You're gaining by 1/10 a lap.
So Kvyat does have another stop to do. Kvyat does have another stop to do, as do we. The gap to Perez seems to have levelled off now as these mediums wear. The hards are coming into their own. Oh, he's back in. Stepped on in there. Kvyat's tyres starting to go. Is this going to be our opportunity maybe over the next few laps? I'm desperately trying to catch this bloody AlphaTauri.
We're leading our teammate by 42.0 seconds.
We've extended a further 6 seconds ahead of our teammates since we last had that message. His back end stepped on him again there, Kvyat. I need it to do that to him here on this straight. Please, please, please. I just can't catch him. Oh, I didn't have DRS activated, you idiot, Ches. We're not losing Ricciardo either. That's what worries me as well. Trying desperately to finish 8th. I may end up finishing 10th if Ricciardo sticks with us. This battle has lasted the entirety of the Grand Prix so far. It might well be, quite possibly, my longest individual battle ever. If I sit the entire 61 laps of this Singapore Grand Prix stuck behind Daniel Kvyat, be furious. Verstappen's in the pits. Verstappen pitting for another set of tyres. He obviously went on to softs. Verstappen went on to softs after the stop for dry tyres, but he has come out ahead of us, and quite considerably ahead of us, to be fair. So Max is now trying to go to the end on a set of mediums. We are stopping again on about lap 44. What I could do, I could try and undercut Kvyat, but I don't know what lap he's going to stop on. One would presume he's going to stop on the same lap as me, as I'm scheduled for. So I could try and come in on lap 42.
The car ahead is starting to create a gap. They're starting to pull away from us.
I think that's what I might do. I think the undercut is the only reason, or the only way that we're going to be able to get Danny Kvyat or give ourselves the best possible chance is by doing an undercut. So I will pit in 2 laps time and hope to gain enough time to undercut Danny Kvyat on when I'm on fresher tyres, because he is just too quick for me right now. Now is when it's going to make the difference. Now is where we see... Oh, I thought for a minute Kvyat was going to pit. We're going for the undercut. We're going for the undercut. We nailed the pit entry, which was very important. Now is when we find out whether we've got the pace. It's a slow stop from the lads. 3.1 seconds is a very slow stop. I need to not be in traffic and be in a position to use my 100% ERS that I've remaining, which I am. So this outlap is going to be what makes the difference between us catching and overtaking and not overtaking Daniel Kvyat. I am desperate for this to work. It's my last throw of the dice, tactically, to avoid having to do what so far has been impossible and pass him on track. He will pit in a couple of laps' time. You can see what the gap has done to Ocon since we came out of the pits. That's the sort of lap time we're putting in right now. Cut the gap to Ocon from like 4.2 to 2.8 in the space of this one lap. That's the power of the undercut. That's what we need to work in our favour. And then some DRS on Ocon once I've used all of my ERS would help as well. Because I expect Kvyat to pit on lap 44. God, this is nerve-wracking, not knowing what's going to happen. We're fighting so hard to match our best finish of the entire year. Ocon in the pits now, so I'm not going to get... I am not going to get any DRS off him. Loads of people in the pits. Not including Daniel Kvyat, though. Gap to Ricciardo, 20.8.
Okay, the gap behind is 10.2 seconds.
Oh, God. Come on. Teammates in the pits. Don't care about him at the minute. Personal best sector 1 is good news. gap to Daniel, in theory, will show us what the gap to Kvyat is doing. Because Daniel was lapping not too far behind us and at about the same pace, there or thereabouts a lap. I'll be honest, I'm surprised AlphaTauri didn't pit Kvyat immediately after they saw me pit to cover the undercut. But we are on for a personal best lap of the Grand Prix here. No purple sectors on this occasion, although we did set a purple second sector recently. Kvyat's in the pits. This is it. This is it. Kvyat's in the pits. Has the undercut worked? Has the undercut worked? Kvyat is in the pits. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix from us. And the undercut works. We are out ahead of Daniel Kvyat. We have done it. We have made the undercut work. We've opened up a 5.5 second gap. That's how powerful the undercut has been. 6 second gap. Let's go. A fastest lap of the race. Perfect undercut. Textbook undercut. Gains 6 seconds over the course of 3 laps. And we are now ahead of Danny Kvyat and have a gap to manage. But we are going to have to manage that gap because I've run out of ERS and I can't run in rich. So Kvyat is going to be faster than me now for probably the remainder of the Grand Prix. I need to make sure that I still run as fast as I possibly can without making mistakes and keep that gap as high as possible.
Car behind has boxed for the mediums. Car behind on the medium tyre.
But as things stand, we are running a net 8th. A net 8th, because Ricciardo and Magnussen in front of us both have to pit again. That battle took 40 laps for us to overtake Kvyat. We were behind Daniel Kvyat, chasing him down with every fibre of our being for 40 laps. And finally, we get the job done. That is one of the most rewarding things I've ever had in gaming ever, I think. To be right behind someone, desperately trying to catch, unable to do so for 40 laps. In wet weather conditions, in dry weather conditions, on softs and on mediums. And now another set of mediums, and we got it done. And you can see how important opening up or saving that overtake button was, because still now 2 laps later, I've only got 25% of my ERS back. I needed that 100% battery to ensure that I was able to do it, and the gap is seemingly stabilised around about 5.8 seconds. But to be fair, we were lapping pretty identically for 40 laps, so we should hold position against him. If at the very worst he does start to catch, it shouldn't be more than a 10th or 2 a lap, which will mean he'll close the gap to within maybe 3 seconds at most, or at least. But we should hold on to a net P8 as Daniel Ricciardo and Magnussen both have to pit again. Magnussen we will catch and pass on track. I hope, anyway. It's Ricciardo I'm questioning now. The gap has closed from, what, 17 when we came out of the pits to 13 now. But if he is able to stay out for the rest of the Grand Prix, I don't know as I'd be able to catch him. They could throw caution to the wind, Renault, and try and keep him out for the rest of the Grand Prix. All those that stayed on the hards seem to still have the pace. Perez is holding up currently the Red Bulls, or at least one of the Red Bull, in Max Verstappen. Might even be Albon actually tucked up right behind him, setting a fastest lap of the race. But we've caught Magnussen now. Ricciardo got held up behind a Williams trying to lap him. Please tell me please tell me that Daniel Ricciardo has to pit again. First thing I'm doing once I take Magnussen is asking about Daniel Ricciardo and driver in front. They better tell me he needs to make another stop. Well, Magnussen is so slow in the corners. So slow in the corners. Just going to throw it up the inside and try and get past him here. I can't afford to lose too much time behind K-Mag if Daniel is going to the end. And whilst leaving in racing room, we are past Kevin Magnussen. Really pleased with that move. It is Albon that's chasing Verstappen and Perez down. We're past K-Mag. That was a sweet move.
Ricciardo is ahead of you. Gap to car in front is 12.1 seconds. They're on old mediums.
Please tell me he needs to make another stop.
20 laps old. We think they've got
Oh.
one more stop. The
God.
time last lap was a 1 minute 43.1.
They do think
by 2 seconds allowed.
they do think Magnussen. Oh, sorry, they do think Ricciardo needs to make another stop. Although he still isn't stopping. He's still going. Magnussen's just gone now. He's absolutely gone behind us. Kvyat, though, notice the gap to Kvyat is closed from 6 seconds to 4.3 whilst trying to battle past Magnussen. But hopefully, having K-Mag between us will give us a little bit of extra leeway. And fingers crossed, Kvyat.
You're 10 seconds behind the car ahead.
Fingers crossed, Kvyat struggles to get past Daniel Ricciardo. Sorry, Kevin Magnussen. And we are able to continue to extend that gap, or at least maintain it. He could stretch him, you know. He could really try and stretch him to the end of the race. He's still going. His lap times can't be that good, though, because the Williams behind him that he's lapped is still with him. He's lapped to Williams, and that Williams is still with him, and Kvyat and Magnussen are at it. Magnussen is in the pits. Magnussen has finally pit for those tyres, but Kvyat lost time behind him. So Magnussen is making his final stop of the race, which hopefully indicates that Daniel should be in this lap as well. Kvyat 6.7 behind us with 11, 12 really laps to go. We are on for equaling, provided Daniel pits, equaling our best finish of the year at a track that I absolutely had no idea that we were going to be this quick at. I fully expected to be just crawling around in the rain, struggling horribly and finishing P17 in this Grand Prix. Hands down my most competitive Singapore Grand Prix that I can remember. Outside of maybe Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari, or when we did the Hulkenberg series in F1 2016. But the gap to Daniel is just plummeting. Still not pit, and still the Williams is right behind him. I mean, if the Williams tries to unlap himself and starts to hold Daniel up even more, then great. But that gap to the both of them is just, even if they don't pit, we're going to catch them now. Daniel's in the pits. Finally, Daniel Ricciardo pits. We are up into P8 again. That should now, barring any retirements, be where we finish.
By about 0.3 a lap.
Unless there are any further retirements, it should just be a case now of seeing out the remainder of the Grand Prix, I hope. But you never know. There might yet be more retirements. Or perhaps a coming together between the two Red Bulls and Sergio Perez. They're battling hard. Pardon the pun, of course, with Sergio Perez putting on the hard tyres, being the reason he's in front of them. I don't think I could have done the same. Not with my lack of straight line speed on the straights. I don't think I could have done the same. This genuinely has been the most we could possibly have done in this Grand Prix. And Daniel's gone to softs, I've just noticed. Daniel went so long on that set of mediums that he's going to be able to run a set of softs at the end. We didn't have an extra set of softs available, I don't think. I believe the only soft tyres I've got left are worn pairs. Check if any of those three have a penalty. I could do. I don't believe anyone's got a penalty. No. Giovinazzi had a warning for... Well, they both had a warning for a collision with each other, Giovinazzi and Grosjean. Stroll retired, and Lando Norris has had a warning for a collision with Russell, but outside of that, nothing for anyone. So, no chance of us being able to gain a position for penalties. The gap is still considerably plummeting to those three in front because Checo's so slow on those hard tyres, but there's just not the race distance left for us to be able to catch, unfortunately. And then even when we do catch, there's no guarantee of getting past, is there? We can be absolutely thrilled with a P8 though, and an extremely hard fought P8 as well. We perhaps got lucky with the fact that the AlphaTauris had to double stack. Not double stack, sorry. The AlphaTauris elected not to double stack and kept Gasly out for an extra lap. That's definitely helped us get at least one of the AlphaTauris with just that one mistake from the team. And then it was our decision. It was our decision to undercut a strategy masterclass, strategy genius call from us. I won't say me. I don't want to be that big-headed, but it was a strategy call between us.
Use your overtake button more. It's time to utilize some of this energy
to make the undercut work, and it has worked. And look how much further we've pulled away from Kvyat as well on these fresh tyres. He's got fresher tyres than me by 2 laps, and we've still extended the gap from 6 to 7.4 since we made those stops 13 laps ago. No, 15 laps ago for us. So in clean air, we have been able to get away. Which proves he was holding us up. Even though he was faster down the straights and in the key areas into overtaking zones, we have been the faster car. So on to the last lap of the Singapore Grand Prix we go. One of the most rewarding battles or rewarding races that we've ever had on any F1 game, to be honest. Any F1 game. Apparently I'm running red for fuel, but we should be fine. I can afford to run in lean for the rest of the race and it not be a problem. Battling with Danny Kvyat for 40 plus laps, trying to stay with him in the dry, trying to stay with him in the wet, trying to stay with him in the dry again, and finally getting past with the undercut, and doing so in quite spectacular fashion as well. Valtteri Bottas has won the Grand Prix and will extend his lead at the top of the Drivers' Championship. Alex Albon looks like he's going to be the one to get the fastest lap point. But we've closed the gap to those in front from 26 to 11 in this final stint, just proving how slow Sergio Perez has been on those hard tyres. But the fact that the Red Bulls, who went for the same sort of strategy as us and everybody else outside of the top 5 of the extra stop, their strategy would have worked if it were on almost any other track. But track position is king at street tracks, and that's proven to be the case for Sergio Perez, who gets a very hard-fought 5th place, as we get a very hard-fought 8th place, which we will be very, very pleased with. Carlos Sainz gets driver of the day, but we're delighted to have qualified P14, started P13, and finish 8th. Expertly executed race plan. Thank you for the follow, Ryan, and for the bits, Ewok McFluffrey. Appreciate that very much indeed. Valtteri Bottas first, Sebastian Vettel second, actually, and Lewis third. So the gap at the top will actually extend by more than we thought it would. Total race time of 110 minutes. We were 10 minutes short of 2 hours. That was a long Grand Prix. And we actually were 111 minutes 49 seconds.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings.
Nearly a 2-hour Grand Prix. But delighted with that. Where did Sainz? Sainz finished 11th after starting 20th. He qualified 12th. Sorry, qualified 13th, but with grid penalties started 20th. Our teammate started at the back, made up 2 positions over the Williams, and finished ahead of Stroll because he DNF'd. To be fair, we probably would have finished behind Stroll as well. So we would have finished 9th if we went for the DNF. But as things stand, that is our joint best Grand Prix of the season. Valtteri has a 57-point gap over Lewis, whose gap to Seb has been cut there slightly. Mercedes still killing it in the constructors. We're a long way behind Alpha still. They've got more than double our points. Alpha Tauri jumping above Alpha, in fact, with Danny Kvyat getting the points in that Grand Prix. But hopefully we can close down on Alfa Romeo between now and the end of the season. If they continue to not score any points, and I can get that sort of finish between now and the end of the season, then we will overtake Alpha Tauri. Not Alpha Tauri, Alfa Romeo. We might catch Alpha Tauri.
Really seem to enjoy that. You made it look easy.
Easy was not the word for it. Not at all. The car had the grace of a ballet dancer. Connor's gifted a subscription to Mo as well. Thank you very much, Connor. Your team must be ecstatic with how you're performing. I'm really glad I could live up to their expectations. They are. I do it just to see the smiles on their faces. I'll just say I'm really glad I could live up to their expectations.
It looks like you're schooling your rivals at the moment.
Well, we've both learned from each other. This rivalry is really pushing us both. I won't say that's why they call me Sir. That's a bit too big-headed. McLaren's performance. I'll say you can see how hard they're working.
Great. Well, that's everything.
Thanks, Claire. Oh, what a Grand Prix, lads. Honestly, that was unreal. We have caught up and maybe even overtaken Esteban Ocon now in the rivalry as well, which we have done as we head into the Russian Grand Prix for the next one. Big boost to team acclaim, big boost to individual acclaim, getting closer to level 2. We did achieve a top 10 finish, which is an extra £254,000. I lost 50k in damages, but still a great race weekend. The joint best, Singapore and Austria. And to be fair, because of my previous form at Singapore, you have to say that's probably the best performance of the season. We do have the opportunity to renew a sponsorship now. DSP Optics, their contract, what was their contract for? I can't actually see. I can't remember which one it was. Actually, I'll be able to process of elimination. So that was 100 laps. That was fastest lap in any session. So this one was the top 10 finish. Top 10 finish was the DSP Optics. We will see what else is available. Sort by weekly income. 33 constructors points. No. That is easily done. 75 laps during a race weekend. But the goal bonus isn't that high. That's not going to happen though. That's not going to happen for me. DSP Optics. I mean, I'd probably be better off going with the Atlantic one, I think. Unless any of these top 12 finish during a race. 10 constructors points. Qualify P10. Fastest lap in any session. 20 constructors points in a race weekend. That's not happening. Fastest lap during a race. Maybe is doable, but not that regularly. 1 constructor's point. Again, that's just a top 10 finish. And I'd be better off going with the one that had the higher payout. What's the total there? Complete all practice programs in a race called complete or pass. That's the difference. Complete we could easily get though. What's the total there? 309 $384,000. 384,000, and Atlantic is, yeah, we'd be better off doing the other one. We'd be better off doing the, what was it? Achieve? No. This one, XXY. XXY looks like it would be the most lucrative option. So I'm going to go with XXY. We'll go with them, and then we can change where they are on the car. So XXY can go there on the side of the car, and on the side of the end plates as well. And we could put Shark on the side, or XXY as well. Let's have a look. XXY there. There you go. New sponsors, but they look good. They look good. We'll take that. Very pleased with that indeed. Right, what's the next Grand Prix? Oh, it was Russia, wasn't it? We have got time to do an activity. Pace for my reserve driver, sponsor event, powertrain. To be fair, we are wanting to upgrade the powertrain next, so maybe I'll do that. Powertrain, and then let me go in here. Oh, was it capacity though, wasn't I? Department capacity reached. We're not going to get the R&D back for the next Grand Prix, are we? No. Okay, let me remove that activity and instead do the sponsor event then. So we'll get some extra money and we'll get some extra team acclaim, but we will head to Russia and take penalties for, or take grid penalties for new bits, I think, is the way forward here. We shall take penalties for new bits. That's going to be the end of this YouTube video, though, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Do drop the video a like if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more moving forward. There will be another video very soon. I'll get this edited as soon as I possibly can and uploaded as soon as I possibly can. A wet quali for Russia. A wet quali but a dry race. A wet quali but a dry race. It's going to mix things up a bit, isn't it? Really mix things up a bit. What I'll do then is to ensure that I don't forget, I will get these new bits. We will take penalties, but that's fine. I'll put that in. Actually, no, I'll do that just to make sure I get the part, and then we'll put the other bits in. Right, so we'll take a penalty for Russia, but that's not a problem. That means we will be fresh parts for the Japanese Grand Prix, which will be with the wheel in a couple of episodes' time, in a couple of days' time for you guys on Twitch. But I will be live again tomorrow for the Russian Grand Prix. So on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.